They hired me because they wanted to diversify. They had been in all-boys school, and they were bringing females in. So they asked me if I would come and help to support that change. I said, absolutely. I realized very quickly, however, that this institution was not serious about that change. I watched as a boy who was biracial get Oreos thrown at his feet. I watched my Jewish students get pennies thrown at them as they walked to class. I watched a young African-American female lock herself in the bathroom because she was abused so badly each day she could not find it in herself to go to class every single day. The straw that broke the camel's back for me, though, was when I sat in an auditorium and I listened to a speaker talk about women. That speaker talked about the fact that women were weak-minded. That speaker talked about the fact that women did not have the same capability and strength to be on the field with others. That speaker talked about the fact that women were inferior to men. And I watched the 35 girls that I had supported on that campus each and every day slouch in their chairs. And I said to myself, I cannot accept this. I cannot accept this way of being. So in sitting there, I waited and I said, Darcy, give people some credit. Maybe there's going to be a rebuttal to this. Maybe the opportunity is going to come where another child is going to get up and talk about how they didn't believe this to be true. Because I do believe that everybody has a right to speak. However, I also believe that you have to have an ability to counteract what people have to say. I watched as the dean of that school said congratulations to that young man and said that's the end of our ceremony. I was horrified, absolutely horrified. I was standing in a hall with over 500 people. And I said to myself, I cannot allow this injustice to continue. So I raised my hand and said, Mr. Harmon, may I have a minute? He said, not right now, Mrs. Fernandes, I'd like you to wait. I said, this can't wait, Mr. Harmon. I need to speak now. Mr. Harmon said, I would really prefer, Mrs. Fernandes, if you would come to my office later. I said, absolutely not. He said, why? And what I said to Mr. Harmon was very clear. If this was a man with a hood on, and he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, would that have been okay? Mr. Harmon looked at me in shock, in despair, and he said, Mr. Fernandes, how do you measure these two the same way? I said, because basically you just took 50% of our population and told them they're not worthy. I won't accept that from our institution. Minutes later, all of the young women that I was an example for stood up and started clapping. I knew at that moment it wasn't important whether I had a job. It was important that those young ladies understood what justice was. Needless to say, the next day, Mr. Harmon called me in and I no longer had a job. But I said to Mr. Harmon, that's okay, because I have my resignation here for you anyway, because I don't want to work at an institution that's about this.